from 8 p.m. and you can tune in, get a bit of our discussions, put up your comments on our social media pages, and let's get talking. Tonight, our focus is on the National Development Planning Commission. What are our macro indicators saying? The National Development Planning Commission has developed a model which is going to help the country in forecasting its economy or Ghana's economy, whichever way it goes, whether there is COVID or not, how we are able to plan the economy in the next few years. It has also presented a social framework to Parliament for approval. We are getting into the details of these, what we are to expect as a country as regards our economy. So you want to stick and stay with us tonight. We are hosting the Director General of the National Development Planning Commission tonight. It's going to be an interesting one. So please do stick and stay. We are live from our studios here at Rage here in Accra. We are also live on our Facebook page, Chairman Kwesi Afriyie, and we are live on DSTV channel 277. My name is Kwesi Afriyie. Before we get into the discussions tonight, let's have a look at the stories which are making round in the world of business for the evening.
According to the Minister of Communication and Digitization, Esla Osue-Kufo, the Ghana.gov payment platform will revolutionize financial service provision since it will eliminate direct physical money interactions, thereby enhancing efficient monitoring and the collection of revenue across government agencies. She spoke at the launch of the Ghana.gov platform at the Jubilee House.
Ghana.gov, the electronic platform for the delivery of and payment for government goods and services, was developed by a consortium of 3 private sector companies, ordinarily competitors, but united in love for country as partners with government to deliver a world-class solution.
Francophone African countries are not sabotaging the quest for Africa to trade in a common currency. These are the words of the French ambassador to Ghana, Annie Sophie. According to her, economic policies of the various countries have prolonged the realization of this dream. She was speaking to Shadrach Odemiajare.
It's not the French-speaking countries that are how do you say?
Sabotaging, no.
Sabotaging the West African currency, but another country that is so big that it doesn't need any other countries to gather around a common currency. So everyone accuses everyone else. The people with the CFA believe that they want to get rid of the CFA and they would like a West African currency. Some are very happy with the CFA, and some. You know, I think it's an ECOWAS issue that they are addressing seriously. Having a joint currency, we have that in France with the euro. It doesn't come overnight.
The Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, His Excellency Mene Wamkele, together with some heads of states, trade ministers, and diplomats from across Africa, unveiled a bust in honor of the former president of Niger, His Excellency Issoufou Mahamadou, at the After Secretariat in Accra, the commercial capital of Africa.
We have positioned our continent for economic transformation and the ability to secure Africa's prosperity in the years to come, for generations to come.
The Director General of the Ghana Development Planning Commission, Dr. Kojo Essien-Mensah, says government is prioritizing job creation in its medium-term plan since this would help build Ghana's local economy.
Looking at how we can take advantage of the development of the pharmaceutical sector, and which was obvious for us during the COVID time, that this is an area we can take advantage of. We're also looking at how we can also take advantage and look at our housing situation. We saw it, how we went virtually far wanting during the COVID period, and how we can take advantage of building and improving upon our housing and not just houses. This is very important for us.
The president of African Export-Import Bank, Professor Benedict Orama, believes that the African Continental Free Trade Area is more than an agenda for common trade, but rather economic emancipation. He said this at a ceremony organized in honor of His Excellency Issoufou Mahamadou, the former president of Niger, at the After Secretariat in Accra.
You have equipped us with the armor to conduct the battle for Africa's economic emancipation. An armor that will sound the death knell on Africa's underdevelopment and deindustrialization. and one that will help Africa to re-energize as a global economic force and realize the ambitions of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want.
Director General of the National Development Planning Commission, Dr. Kojo Mensah Essiem, says the 4-year medium-term National Development Plan of Ghana would set Ghana on a path to economic, human, and infrastructure revitalization when implementation starts in 2022. He said this at a press briefing organized by the Ministry of Information in Accra.
The discussion is that within the 4 years, bringing together all the long-term perspective, the President coordinated program, we're saying that the first one will aim to create a sustainable economy which is inclusive and be able to resolve some of the economic challenges that we're going through. So for the first 4 years, we need to create, the second 4 years, we need to create a stable economy and then also revitalize. Okay, given what we've gone through with the COVID.
So to sustain the economy and to revitalize what we've gone through so far, in the mix of fix the country, the mix of a call for employment and productivity and a lot of activities here in the country, the National Development Planning Commission is very, very critical. Tonight, we have the Director General here, and you saw him already on the screen, but we'll take a quick break. When we are back, I'll introduce him and we'll get straight to our discussions for the night.
Accra, commercial capital of Africa, will host the 5th Ghana International Trade and Finance Conference, GITFIC, on the 27th of July 2021 at the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel in Accra at 9 a.m. prompt. This year's theme is Facilitating Trade and Trade Finance in AFCFTA, the role of the financial services sector. The event will host continental dignitaries including AU Commissioner for Trade, Industry and Mining, the Governor of the Central Bank of Ghana, the Governor of the Central Bank of Francophone West Africa, the Governor of the Central Bank of Francophone Central Africa, Director General of WAMI, ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, the African Development Bank, Ghana's Commissioner for Insurance and several others within the trade and finance space of Africa's economies. The 5th International Conference will be opened by His Excellency Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, and moderated by Mr. Prince Moses, General Manager, Asasi Radio. Critical and urgent continental issues on the Pan-African payment and settlement system within the AFCFTA and others will be discussed with apt solutions to influence regional and continental policies. Proudly sponsored by the Bank of Africa, the Bank of Ghana, GIZ Support Project for the AFCFTA and Asasi Radio. Visit www.gitfic.com to learn more and stay tuned in to Asasi Radio for more updates.
Logo the bottom. Where you say 80 local channels na mo hedo. As a picture see clear. E 5 times better. As other channels can go be show hormone. So we dey mention mon tram raka why. Oh, what a picture. What a picture. What do AD plus decoder or multi TV and now electroland agent PR natural local channels now HD the here so better *879#. Numbers from Kubi box and now you activate 80 channels.
Get an HD Plus decoder from now till the 9th of August for just 89.99 Ghana cedis and enjoy 3 months free subscription. Enjoy all the excitement and live sports action in the HD Plus Air Bosso Philippines wedding. Promo lasts from 7th June to 9th August 2021. Visit hd-plus.com.gh or call 024-243-9872 for more info.
Half a nose for good things.
Right, so good evening to you again, and you welcome back from the break. I've told you earlier on that tonight our focus is on the NDPC, and I've introduced to you again that in the midst of Fix the Country and all the problems that we have as a country, in the call for government to fix the employment issues, the productivity issues, the production of food issues, and all of that, one critical institution is the National Development Planning Commission. Yesterday you saw them in the news, and tonight we have somebody that I'm going to introduce. He is Dr. Kojo Isem Mensa Abrampa. He's a development economist and a planner by profession. He's a public-private partnership expert and has undertaken advisory and consultancy assignments for key development organizations, including the World Bank, EU, DFID, GIZ, AFDB, and RIC. Prior to taking his current position, he was a senior technical advisor to the Minister for Planning in Ghana from 2017. He was also a senior policy advisor for the United Nations Development Program UNDP in New York and responsible for local development and urbanization portfolio, where he initiated several economic development and investment programs in post-conflict and recovery countries. So the list goes on and on and on. Ladies and gentlemen and viewers, tonight my guest is the Director General of the National Development Planning Commission. Good evening to you, Doc, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure joining you here this evening.
We are happy to have you. You must be going through a lot of heat by now when everybody is calling on government to solve our problems for us, give us jobs, especially the youth. Planting for Food and Jobs is going through problems. You must be by your round table thinking a lot, setting up a lot of plans for us as a country.
Yeah, it's exciting. And it's very exciting at this time. You have to bring all your experience, all your professional talent, and also get your team to work so that we can have at least a prediction of a better path for ourselves as a country. And that is it. Should we have hope as a country? Very, very much.
Looking at the indicators we have, in the past 4 years, we have had good macroeconomic indicators.
Yes,
but on the micro, we haven't done very well.
Well, we're still doing quite well. Depends
People
on
are saying
how
they don't have money in their pockets. They are not seeing the indications you are talking to us about, the interest rates, all the things that you are saying.
Well, it takes time for some of these things to really manifest. Depending on the damage which we've experienced in the past, especially the structure of the country. And now we are going through a huge transformation. Definitely in the transitional period, in the transformation period, there must be some hedge point and quite difficult situations. And I'm sure it is necessary, because that is what will get us out of the woods and come out better. And it's very, very important. If you look at our macro situation, it's been quite well, compared to a lot of countries that have gone through this process. We've been very, very, very well. If you look at the past 4 years, the performance in almost all the macroeconomic indicators. I always say that it is time that we bring this to the base, where jobs are really created, where activities really manifest. And that is the level that we are going through now. And the hue and cry indicates that there's a next step that we need to take. And definitely the discussion that has gone on within the government for this year indicates that yes, we are getting there. I am sure the COVID was a prompter, but at the same time, it created certain opportunities that we need to leverage for us to get to where we really wanted to be. And that is very important. Create the jobs so that people can have, the needed, as you said, resources in their pockets and be able to work. And
I asked the first question whether we should be hopeful because I mean, you are an expert, a development planner, you have worked in local communities as well. So you understand the feeling of the people making this call. And based on that, you are able to plan and also understand the policy initiatives of government with the one district, one factory, one village, one dam, the Ghana Cares program, the programs that government wants to roll out, NEIP, for example, whether they are practical programs that are solving the problems of the layman or the common Ghanaian.
It is, and largely I think that it's really performed very well. I've for the last since March, I've gone around the country, visited 32 districts. 32. Yes, and I've visited every region. I'm yet to go to OT, which will be the last. And I needed to come back to Accra to finish with this process before going to finish that. So having visited these 32 districts, I realized that what you are saying is true. People are complaining, people are talking about certain things that they expected. Indeed, what I have challenged a lot of the people that I met at the regional level, at the local level, is that, look, government came out with a plan, an initiative, a national plan, a real call for a concerted action. But it looks as if there is still a gap between the national thinking and the local thinking. Creating jobs, creating wealth is not an Accra business. No. It is not just institutions at the national level working. It is a responsibility for the sectors at the national level, as it is as well for those at the district. And therefore, if there is the call for job creation, it must be seen at the district level. We did a midterm evaluation of the medium-term plan since 2018 to now. And it's one of the things we identified, that whilst the government is calling for job creation, at the district, are we responding in the same way? So the notion is that if a factory ought to be developed, it has to be a national institution that has to facilitate the process at the local level. But no.
It should be at the district level.
Exactly.
The district players should rather be championing the agenda of setting up the factory.
Exactly. So if it's one district, one factory, you don't wait for somebody to come from the ministry to start the process. You have to identify the opportunities in your district. If it's concerning skill development, you don't need somebody to come from Accra to identify what skills ought to be developed. But you ought to start. And it begins from our district identifying their respective comparative advantages. When you identify your comparative advantage, that is where you can indicate to the national level. So it's an indication to the national level the path that you are taking as a district, given the resources that you have, given the level and the skill level that is in your district, and also the opportunities around the place that you can then really indicate to the national. So
that the national can now support you in the implementation process.
I even don't use the word support, I use the word facilitate.
Facilitate for you.
That is it. And that is a notion which is still a bit lacking.
I was going to ask you whether we have, as a people, understood this as a country, because we have had, the MPP government setting up a whole ministry to facilitate, for example, one village, one dam, the one district, one factory, a whole secretariat. But we don't have this understanding that we, the local people, led by our district assembly, should champion this agenda.
I think this is one, the process takes time to build. And this is one area which National Development Planning Commission, having done the evaluation, that is the essence of evaluation, to assess the areas where there are possible gaps and the areas where we can accelerate this process. So this is one area which we identify. The bringing up the district to have this real understanding and really comprehend some of the issues that we're talking about, so that they can also be real partners and not just looking on to the national level to bring it, but the national level rather to facilitate, and the local people to take the action. This is the challenge, and this is the gap we identify, and this is one thing in all the 32 districts that I visited, I really emphasized. It is not lost because I know that at the Ministry of Local Government, it's a process which has also been initiated, and they have the term local economic development. This is not the first time this is being pursued, but the pursuit of the one district, one factory, the planting for food and jobs, the one village, one dam is giving impetus to this local economic development.
Right.
That it is not a process of just putting one borehole there, building one public toilet there, building repairing one chip compound, which is development. No.
Right.
There ought to be an integrated process such that these attempts, these pursuit of projects are related and are building towards a common goal, the goal of which is creating wealth and creating jobs. So it is not only for the national, but it should be for the district.
No, forgive me. I need to come back to NDPEC itself. I told you I was going to ask you about what has been happening so far over the last few years, and especially since you took over as a Director General. But let me ask you this last question on that. We will still come back to the main points which we have. You talk about development at the district level, but we have had the notion that private sector is the engine of growth. And so government is making great efforts to support the private sector through the various vehicles that it's set up. You see the Minister of Trade every time talking about developing the private sector, which will create jobs. If we are now to get the understanding which you are pushing at the district levels, what happens? Is it still government-led at the district levels or private sector-led?
It is still private sector-led. The districts are to create, and I always emphasize that, an environment which will be convenient for the private sector to operate. Very, very important. So that is it. How would the private sector be attracted to an area? The private sector would like to make sure that if I'm going to operate a factory which requires water, there's a facility for water. I have a source of energy. I have a banking facility, a financial facility which has the needed security to provide for me. That is what is going to attract the private sector. I have the needed raw material which is produced in the area, and the raw material is not produced by one farmer there, one farmer here, but be able to collect and put together in such a way that I can also assess in bulk for my process. All these are things that ought to be organized, but who should organize it? If I'm a private sector, I'm coming to invest, I'm looking for these opportunities.
You want the system to be set already so that you can...
Exactly, and that is it. That is what we are pushing. And that is what, the vice president and the president in almost all their speeches are hammering on. To be able to organize ourselves in such a way that we create an environment for the private sector
to try to
invest and to thrive. And that is it.
Wow, we'll come back to this, but let me now come back to the National Development Planning Commission. I mean, people know you, but there are other people who do not know the National Development Planning Commission as well. For the layperson watching us, you have begun taking us into the details of how our planning should be, right from the very local level to the national level. And people will be wondering, what are you doing there as National Development Planning Commission? Who are you? What's the institution about, and what's been happening so far?
Yes, thank you very much. The National Development Planning Commission has 4 basic functions. One which is primary and then leading to the others. The primary thing is that the National Development Planning Commission advises the president on anything that relates to the development strategy of the country and then also policies. And this is enshrined in our constitution's Article 87. The commission, again, in pursuit of that, has to come out with what we call a rolling development plan, which could be long-term, medium-term, or short-term. It could be at the request of the president, at the request of parliament, or the commission's own initiative. That is it. And then in doing that, we also need to do what we call a structural review of the country. We always have to review it and advise the president and then the government, for that matter, how this government should be managed in terms of strategic development and policies. And then in in pursuing this, we also need to conduct studies. So we need to study the country, do research, do analysis to be able to proffer very good advice wherever it is required. And then finally, we need to also focus on implementing coordinating, and then also monitoring and evaluating all development activities in the country. That is important. And the key output is to ensure balanced development in the country, protecting our environment, making sure that we have value for money for all the resources that we have in the country, and that is it.
So someone asked me early on when I put your picture up, that what's the difference between DOC's institution and that of the economic management team? I'm sure you have the answer now, or you want to pass a quick comment on that?
No, the economic management team is an executive institution which is organized, chaired by the vice president as a structured process to think about the economy. So when we do studies, when we conduct all these advices, it is supposed to go to the president, but technically
it goes through the
EMT. That is it.
You've been the CEO for how many years now?
I've been here for, it was October 2019.
October 2019.
Prior to that, I was at Ministry of Planning.
Right. I read that. But so far, under you, we are coming to talk about the things you are about to introduce, your submissions to Parliament and all that. But what has happened so far during your tenure?
It's very interesting. I think that for every planner, this is the best time to be at NDPC. I came at a time that I've already been part of the preparation of the President's vision, what we call the Coordinated Program for Economic and Social Development Policies.
Right.
This document is practically an interface between the technical plan, which always looks at the long-term perspective of the country, and also the political perspective, which is expressed in terms of the mandate given to the president and the party by the people. Right. So whatever they sold to the people for them to elect them is also very vital in this equation. So the coordinated program is really what we call a dialogue, the result of a dialogue between the two parameters, the technical, political interface, resulting in this coordinated program. So immediately I came to office, this was in place, and therefore there was a need to prepare a medium-term development plan, the first phase, and beginning from 2018. Since I had been part of it, coming from Ministry of Planning, it was very easy when I assumed the position in 2019 to pursue this. Let me also make a point that the Director General is head of the Technical Secretariat.
Okay.
But we have what we call the Commission itself, which is made up of representatives, one from each region in the country. That is a commission. And then also we also have experts who are also appointed by the President to join this. On the commission are also selected ministers who are also appointed by the President. And then we have what we call ex-officio members. The Minister for Finance, the Governor of Bank of Ghana.
They are all part of the commission?
Yes, the head of government statistician, and then also the Director General. This is the commission. So what we do is that...
Not just the secretariat, we
not
see...
At all.
We see where your office actually is. I was going to mention the location, but let me...
These are I always call them 42 best brains in the country. I mean, this is a commission which has about 16 professors. So it tells
16 good professors.
Exactly. So it tells you, I call it the cream a la cream of these countries, and all that we do as the head of the, I am just the head of the technical team which serves
as the secretariat.
This commission, yes, and that is it. And what we did was a lot of things. Three major things we decided to do when I came to office. First of all, to make the commission very relevant to the government as well as the people of Ghana, the parliament as well, because we also have a huge obligation to parliament in terms of reporting.
Exactly.
The second area is also visibility. As you said, you know, we're physically located in a corner somewhere after Christ the King. You have to go to an Appian way to get to NDPC.
A lot of people ask which branch takes you actually to your office.
Exactly, because you can come opposite the Jubilee House.
You can go around and
exactly.
You get the exact branch.
And the third area is also innovation. These are the three things. When I came in 2019, I presented to my commission, and they've supported me massively. So one of the things which we used to bring out our relevance is to identify the key areas of the economy and do a key analysis on. The economy is one of them. We started doing what we call development dialogues, which was a public thing when we did it at the SM Bank building, which brought in a lot of people, including the press. So they got to know of some of the issues that we're bringing up over the issues that related to health. And coincidentally, as soon as the COVID issue came up,
exactly,
as if we knew what was going to happen, we had a discussion on health, discussion on sanitation, discussion on infrastructure, and
everything that bordered on managing ourselves around the
COVID. And then immediately the COVID came. So when the COVID came, one of the things we did was to do an analysis of the possible effect of the COVID on us. So all the technical people at my place, at the time that we were on lockdown, were really working.
They were coming to the office?
They were working, from their homes. And you'll be surprised, that was the time I got the best output from them. Good analysis in all the sectors, 13 sectors, presented papers. We presented to the commission. They looked at it, vetted it. We went back to the table and went on it, and eventually became a key, contribution to the cabinet retreat and decisions on the COVID. So this is one of the things we did. Another thing was also to take up a real shift on the focus of the medium-term plans. The medium-term development plans had been a routine thing which the district would just go through as and when it comes. But this time around, we initiated a process which we think was very important. Development planning is not just putting the plan on in the document.
I like this point because I was going to ask you what you have done differently. And my next question was going to be about what has happened to all the development plans we have had. I remember the 40-year development plan, and then Vision 2020, and then now all the things that are coming up. But I love the point you're making from the media, the real shift. So let's see the real shift, and then we can come to
some of these things.
Some of these things that we are talking about.
Let me take it logically, to be good for me to take it from the perspective of the very thing which you've ended from. You see, planning begins from a long-term vision. The long-term vision comes with huge assumptions.
Right.
And if you look at the long-term perspective, which everybody will enjoy reading the document, everybody will enjoy reading the Ghana at 100 document, because it gives you a vision of the time that Ghana will be 100 years. Our expectation is that we will have a country which is a developed country with a huge, a per capita income of $50,000. A nominal GDP.
$50,000.
Yes, a nominal GDP of 4.3 trillion. It looks big.
That's per capita income.
Yes, it looks big. $50,000 looks big, but
for every Ghanaian.
Yes, but the projection indicates that if we're able to grow consistently at 5% growth rate, annual growth rate.
How much is our per capita income now?
Our per capita income is around 2,500. So it's quite something.
And you're projecting
$50,000.
That's over 1,000%.
Exactly, and you can get it because it's
cumulative.
Yes, and we've done all the calculations to indicate that if you get just 5% growth rate, you should be able to hit the 50,000 by the year 2057 average. And given what we've done in the first phase of the first 4 years, so from the long term you come to what we call, and I made assertions to that, the interface between the political thinking and the long-term perspective.
And that's where the problem is. When there is a change of government, I mean, you are leading this planning.
It is not a problem if your planning works. And if you understand.
Is a 40-year development plan some few years ago working now? Is it in place now?
It is. It's a long-term perspective.
Is that what you're continuing into the...
Exactly. A long-term perspective. The 40 years looks at so many assumptions.
But are you saying political interference is not a problem for the NDPC?
Well, let me say that NDPC is there to manage political technical interface. So if you see it as a problem, it means you are not working.
I mean, I ask this because I have attended your programs.
Yes.
Where you have included people from the NDC, people from the PNC, all other political parties. Previously, it had happened. But we have not seen consistent. I mean, you are now telling us that you have followed it.
Yes.
But previously, I don't want to do political differentiation and all that. But we haven't seen the consistency over the period.
If you go to the...
We see this government developing its own development plan. Now we see a different development plan.
No. Government doesn't develop a development plan.
Or do I say a dispensation?
let me say that it is Ghana that develops a development plan.
Great.
And that function belongs to National Development Planning Commission. But National Development Planning Commission takes into consideration the government which has been elected and mandated by the people based upon what they sold to them to implement. So it's a social contract between the government and the people. And what NDPC does is to facilitate this process.
Wow.
To say that this is conflicting, this is enhancing, this will help, this is neutral. So that's what we do. And we do, the first thing we do is that when we have a government is elected, definitely the president has a conviction. The president has an experience.
Right.
And we're fortunate we have many of our presidents have gone through cycles in this country and they know a lot of the problems. So that ought to be taken. The party presented the manifesto to the people and the people elected them based upon the manifesto. But that doesn't throw away that technical long-term perspective. So what you do is to do an interface. The interface and the wise people who really drew our constitution took care of that. It is there in 36.5 that immediately a president is elected, you have to come out with a coordinated program of economic and social development policies. And this becomes the output of the dialogue, the interface between the technical and the manifesto. Because the manifesto also goes through a real thinking. So we put the two together. No, this will facilitate it. This is conflict. If this is what you want to do, these are the alternatives. The alternatives is what the government ought to pick. So that is what we do technically. But the choice lies with the government. And that is how development process is managed.
I'm happy about the fact that, I mean, in Ghana here we have political stability, if I can say so. And the good thing for me, as you say, is that if we go at the same rate we are going now, devoid of whichever political party is in power, by 2057,
we should be able to
50,000 per capita income.
Yes, we should be able to reach there. And we are proving it. Because from 2017 to 2019, before the COVID, we projected our medium-term development plan at that time that we should grow at an average of 7%. And indeed, by the end of 2019, we're 7.1%, 1% up. The COVID came in and brought a big drop. But even that, when you add the COVID 2020 year to it, we're still on an average of 5.6, which means we are still above the waters. In spite of the fact that we went deep low to the point that the growth rate was recorded below 1%, we still hit there. And if we're able to do that consistently over the period, we should be able to hit that target, which means that at any given time, we need to work out the mechanisms which can get us to that growth level and above that growth level. And that is it. Very, very key. That also relates to the very big topic that we are talking about, jobs.
Jobs. That's the point I was going to ask.
The technical analysis, which has been proven and the model by Aite and also Boateng indicates that for 1% growth rate, it gives us 0.5 growth in job opportunities. So if the job were 50 and a growth rate of 100 is recorded, there is additional 50, there's additional 25 job opportunities which will be created. That is the relationship. And therefore, now that we've conducted a census, we'll be able to get the right job data. But even before that, that growth rate will indicate that that is the kind of job that we have. So it's very, very principal to have growth, to make sure that the economy is growing. The economy growing also pulls along the social sectors because it creates needs which ought to be responded to. It creates the need for infrastructure. So the cry for infrastructure, the cry for jobs, the cry for social services,
the cry for food,
is all related to that one factor. Are we growing?
Indulge me to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go into the details of the GMM.
Yes.
And then your presentation to Parliament, your document that you are presenting to Parliament. So you are yet to present to Parliament. In fact, some of the news items reported that the document has already been presented to Parliament, but Doc has clarified that it is yet to be presented to Parliament. But you are watching the Director General of the National Development Planning Commission, and we are talking about Ghana's economy, he says that by 2057, if everything goes according to plan, per capita income should be $50,000. Stick and stay with us, we'll be right back.
Are you tired as a consumer in Ghana when it comes to issues that confront you as a consumer? Worry no more. Kofi Capital, I'm here to give you the information, all that you need to make sure that your right is protected as a consumer. We have too many laws and agencies that should protect the right of the consumer. I'm here to give you the information that will help and assist you to get goods and services delivered to you without any worries. Watch the Capital Show on Metro TV.
A lot of messages are coming in. You're welcome back from the break. This is the bottom line. We say business at the speed of thought. We have a lot of messages coming in, but unfortunately, we have to still get a lot from him. The macroeconomic model, which is to determine Ghana's growth strategy. We are going to have a look at that now. We want to ask him a few questions about it. But Edem, your question has been answered already. Edem Jamesi says, please ask him what happened to the 40 years development plan. They said they would make it binding for government. Is it being used? He has explained that yes, it's a continual program. It's a long-term program, and so that is exactly what they have developed and are working on. Doc, what's the macroeconomic model about?
Well, this is a very important model. I don't want to use all the technical terms. Make it as simple for all of us.
For all of us to understand.
Yeah, exactly. It's a model which helps us to predict the future of the country with certain assumptions and certain information and data. So we've been collecting. We had a big support from Oxford Economics and also from Economic Commission of Africa to develop this process. And this is something which they supported us, but they are homegrown experts who have been part of this whole process, from University of Cape Coast, from ISA, from and then also from NDPC and also KNUST. What we've been doing is that all this data that we've been collecting, it helps us to project into the future. Okay, so one of the areas which, some of the areas which we have been working on includes our economic growth rate. We just talked about it.
Exactly.
It's something that we worked on and been able to look at it consistently within the next 4 years. That one is more perceived. It doesn't become, a prophetic thinking, but it becomes reality because the assumptions are closer to us. We now have COVID with us. What is the implication? All those things are taken into consideration. We're also looking at our fiscal deficit and the fiscal situation. Let me put it that way. Fiscal situation, and then we are looking at our expenditure and revenue in this matter. How much can we collect? How much do we need to spend within these years? And where is it that we need to create, generate more revenue and in order to meet this expenditure? So these are all things that we look at. We're also looking at our public debt. If we are not able to meet this expenditure from our revenue, how much can we borrow? How much that we borrow that will be in excess? All these are important. And then we look at it in terms of this medium term. So what happens in 2021? What can we do in 2020, 2030, and thereon? Employment. It's very, very key. So all these, what is the bearing of that on employment? Okay. And then we also look at it in terms of the sectors. what happens to agri, what happens to industry, what happens to services. One of the areas which we can look at is very, very important is inflation. So these are all things which we do what we call, it's like in a laboratory, okay, because we put all this data together and we play around it.
In various scenarios.
In various scenarios. We look at it, for instance, if the COVID persists, what will be the implication?
We're having a third wave now.
Yeah. So these are some of the things. So that is our big if. If it persists, what will be the implication? If it runs on to the end of the year, what will be the implication for industry? So we do all this juggling of the figures and then come up with something. What will be the effect on services? Because of that, what will be the effect on revenue that we can collect? And thereon, which expenditures do we need to cut? Which expenditures are necessary that we need to leave going? And then what is the implication of that on growth? Because we've gone through a situation where growth was just around 1%. Although it's one of the best in Africa, it was just 1%. And therefore, what is the implication of that if it keeps on?
Right.
So that is one area. The second area is that, what about if the COVID stops? Let's say by the end of next month, we say, oh, now vaccines are all over, the whole world is over. What is the implication? What will be our trajectory? What will be our speed in order to recover? What are the areas that we need to tackle to facilitate this speed? And then the other area is that, what about the COVID plus government policies? Okay, so the COVID is persistent. What policies has government, established? Said that these two combined, what will be the implication?
So what you have done is to forecast solutions.
Exactly.
That if A happens,
yes,
you rely on B.
Exactly.
If B happens, you rely on C.
It's not just solutions, but understanding the issues and because planning is identifying the risk. And then things that are going to happen tomorrow, you're able to bring in today's terms and begin to think about how you can resolve it. So whilst everybody might be dancing to the left, you might be dancing to the right because you have looked at the figures to indicate that going right might be shorter and faster.
Look, have you not gone ahead of yourself when the Ghana Statistical Service is collecting a lot of data that will be relevant for you? Maybe one would ask, you could have waited for Ghana Statistical Service to complete, then you begin to work with the data they have and be able to do a proper forecasting. Very, very good. It doesn't stop us because this information which you have used is coming from Ghana Statistical Service. We don't collect these data ourselves. So as the data come in, these models, these factors are also altered based upon any information that comes in. That's the good thing about this model. As new information comes in, we are able to adjust. Yes, okay, and then it indicates that some of the assumptions that you made might not be the reality, and therefore this is the real thing. And then that will also propel other indices coming out of that. So it is very important. That helps us. It means that we are foreseeing about 4 years these three scenarios and how it plays along, and that helps the decision makers to then select alternatives. That helps the Minister of Finance to say that this is where I'm going to put my taxes, this is how I'm going to enhance my revenue, and then we come out with some key recommendations. So if you look at the results out of all this model playing out, we come out with key resolutions, particularly with respect to revenue. Because in all of that, we realize that if we don't up our revenue gain, if we don't up the amount of revenue that we collect, we might not be able to get the scenario going. Why haven't you developed this model over the last how many years now? It takes years. When they started this, it was 2016. The 2016 is 2016. Well, 2016 model like this that would shape the economy. Look, 2016 is still late.
It all depends on one, the level of technology or knowledge, but it doesn't mean that there had never been a model. Models have been tried. Now we have more technology. This is a systematic we are technology savvy, and it can help us to do this projection. But these things have been done. Our vice president is one of the global experts in that. You go to University of Ghana, there are people. I was going to ask how, of course, this model would really be supported by his digitization agenda and all of that. Exactly. But I mean, it's very obvious. It also needs encouragement on the part of the commission and even the money, the resources. If I tell you the resources we have to put in, mobilize from development partners, other sources, huge in order to run this. And that is it.
Look, we're almost running out of time. You are here to make a presentation to Parliament, a development plan. I mean, the thing we have been talking about, of course, the medium term. What does this entail?
This is a requirement by our own constitution.
Right.
That we have a 4-year medium-term development plan, which we present to the people of this country and then to Parliament. What we have been going through is we are still going through discussions and interface. As I said, my whole team went to the district. They just come out with what we have put on paper. They brought suggestions. We put the suggestions together. So, excuse me, we are near a point of finalization. From that, we'll have a discussion with the Minister of Finance, and then he will definitely lead us to the cabinet. It is when the cabinet has looked at it
before we go to Parliament,
and then our commission. So it's our commission first, then to the minister, then to cabinet.
Is the plan going to create jobs for us?
Definitely, that's the focus.
Is it going to support the agri
sector? If you look at the focus, is job agenda for jobs, creating prosperity and equal opportunity for all Ghanaians.
Unfortunately, our time is up, but we'll find time and come to the office because we need to ask you a lot of questions about the plan for Galamsey people in those areas. The plan
it is there
to develop our agri sector because there is over reliance now on the oil sector of agri when agri is supporting a larger section of the economy. So
agri is still growing. Surprisingly, last year agri was presented the highest growth sector.
It's because of planting for food and jobs.
Well, let me say that it contributed a lot to that. A lot to that. A lot to that. And the figures show it was the highest growing sector. That is what absorbed us from the full impact of the COVID. Because service was down, industry was also down.
We are grateful. Dr. Kojo Isem Mensah Abrampa is the Director General of the National Development Planning Commission. I'm sure by now you are so much convinced about the outlook of the economy in the coming years. Looking at what they are doing at the Secretariat and by the Commission, we pray that they are able to go on with the plans he stipulated to us. We'll find time and visit him and talk about the other sectors that we were not able to talk about. But remember that the plan is not yet at Parliament. They are preparing it. It will be at Parliament soon. My name is Kwesi Efrie. Thank you very much for doing the watching, and thank you very much as well, Doc, for being part of us tonight. Good evening to you all.
Thank you. According to the Minister,
Are you tired as a consumer in Ghana